So the report says that you enabled state capture during your tenure as GCIS head. What say you to these findings?
Hi, Faith, and your viewers. Yeah, I think that characterization is very malicious and baseless. I think if Zondo and his people were fair to South Africa, they should have then proffered evidence to support this slur that they've just lambasted me with, as it were. So I don't know why they're calling me an enabler, simply because Themba Maseko said he refused to be an enabler, and he argued that he was removed and he was replaced with me, and purely because of that, therefore I just become an enabler. But there is no corroborating evidence to substantiate why they're calling me an enabler. So I find this report very malicious, very irresponsible, and really just a hateful report that is actually almost aimed at castigating everyone and everyone that is associated with President Zuma. This is how I see it. I just see it as just a work of fiction.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking here about how you don't understand how they could possibly describe it as an enabler. So according to the report itself, it says that during your term as DG of GCIS, millions of rands were spent on TNA in circumstances where there was no credible readership information nor certified circulation figures for the newspaper. It is inconceivable that this would have been allowed to occur if Mr. Maseko had remained at the helm of GCIS. Basically what they're saying is that you gave this entity millions of rands, or you allowed this entity access to millions of rands when there was not even credible readership or even proper circulation. So when they're saying enabler, that's what they're referring to. Is that true, though? I mean, how do you respond to something like that, where they say even how the entity was paid about 6.3 million rand?
Yeah, no, I think they've said that in that report, and again, this is just a weakness and shoddiness in terms of analysis of what actually happened, despite information given to them. The first point to make is that that 6 million that was paid is 6 million that was agreed to by various departments. This notion that GCIS decides is a very misguided notion. There's no GCIS that decides to spend money anywhere, as it were. Departments make these decisions. GCIS executes. So if there was 6 million that was spent, it was 6 million at the behest of the DGs from line departments. And by the way, just to show how factional this reporting is, after Manyi left, I left 2012. If you look at 13, 14, 14, 15, there was much more that went to these same newspapers. But the DG or acting person that was there, whether it was Kumla Williams that was there, is not categorized as an enabler. Yet there was more money spent after Manyi had left to the same publication. But the person there, because it's on the right faction, is not categorized as an enabler. Why am I categorized as an enabler? Also because this decision was not a Manyi decision. That 6 million decision is not a GCIS decision. GCIS was just an implementer. The decision belongs to the line departments. So I don't know why I've been explaining this at the Zondo Commission, but they just don't get it, purely because they've got a predetermined outcome to besmirch one's name and mess up one's reputation. This is what this is about.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right by saying that even after your departure from the entity in 2012, we saw that there was about 9.5 million rand, and then we had 9.9 million rand as well. And yes, those that are supposed to account for how much of that actually went into TNA need to account for it. But they're not here to account. You're here to account. So let's talk a little bit about that accounting as well, where you're saying that this is a pure play at factionalism. Now, you know that when GCIS is an implementer of this, at the time that you were obviously responsible and at the helm of GCIS, when these departments are sending by these spending and say this needs to go to TNA media, and given your experience, do you not come back to them, or do you not even advise the departments to come back and say, hold on a second, guys, you want to spend the public's money, right? Taxpayers' money on something that will give you a return on investment, ROI, so as it were. So by taking it to a publication where the credible readership is not even established, where circulation is not really established, would be, in my advice, a bad idea, because then as departments, you would not be getting your return on investment. Did that happen, where you advise them and say, what you're investing here is in rubbish.
Now, look, a couple of things. One, let's just make it very clear that in terms of GCIS, then probably even now, there's no such a thing as recognition of ABC, as it were, because government had a policy of diversifying media spend. If the criteria used by ABC, the cartel of media owners, if the criteria of that cartel was used as a standard, not much in terms of what you spend, even on community media would have gone there because they wouldn't have ticked the boxes. So it was never a criteria for GCIS to use ABC, as it were, that you are hounding me about right now. That's the first point. But the second point is that in GCIS, there was this system called TELMA, which is doing something like what you're talking about. Even if you were to say to the various departments, hello, better here, better there, better here, better there, they would have made that decision, and you can't change them. Even though you give them an objective system and say, yes, Telma is saying put there, not there, they still have the final say. And there is no a GCIS authority that gives you an overruling position over other DGs. You must remember, we're equals. You are a DG of GCIS, you're at the same level as a DG of another department. So if those other departments are the client departments of GCIS, so GCIS has got to respect the client. If the client says, I want this money into TNA, that's where the money is going to go. And when the money has gone there, why is Zondo blaming me and not blaming the DGs that made that kind of a decision? And I did say this in the commission. I'm not saying this only now. I explained in the commission that those are decisions taken by line departments, but because there's a predetermined agenda to mess up my name, they ignore that. They say, I don't want to take accountability. Yeah. How do I take accountability for decisions of my equals?
Well, 619 page, that is, page 619, has implicated you, and your name is there, Mr. Manyi. So what happens now? Will you be challenging these findings in court? Will you be trying to clear your name? Because you're right, it's written. And we all know that what is written, it's in black and white, right? And history has documented it. So what happens now? Do you want to clear your name? Do you want to ensure that indeed the Zondo Commission, goes back and rechecks its facts so that you are not implicated in something that you say is not your fault?
It's really factually incorrect. I think it just actually goes to the credibility of this report, that this report does not seem to understand what these people were doing. They don't seem to have understood what they were doing, because I did explain this. I did go to the Zondo Commission. In fact, I think what this episode is doing is actually vindicating those that didn't want to go there, because they knew that it doesn't matter what you say, the die is cast, you'll just be categorized this way. So I did the decent thing. I went there, and I even went with a lot of credible information to give to a Zondo Commission to say, this is for this is for that. I mean, as an example, just to show how factional this whole thing has been, Pumla Williams has got something I submitted there signed where she irregularly spent 7 million or so of GCIS, and that was put there. But if you go to the report now, no mention of that, purely because Pumla Williams is on the right faction. So this whole shebang of Zondo here is actually an assault to all those that are Zuma supporting. This is what it's about, because if you look at the facts, there is nothing that should have got my name in there. Even now, if you look at the recommendations, next to my name, it's blank. There are no recommendations because they don't know what to correct, because I've done absolutely nothing wrong. The money that went there, regardless of the amount, but it went regularly.
But to call you an enabler, Mr. Manyi, is a defaming, right? They are defaming your name, as it were. So in terms of just the defamation of your name, are you going to take Zondo to court and say, actually, based on this factually, as you say, this factually incorrect assessment of what happened and what transpired is defaming my name, you should take this back? Are you going to take him to court? Or are you going to take the inquiry to court?
I'm talking to my lawyers about that, because me as Mzwanele Manyi, I don't have a lot of confidence in our justice system. I've seen what they've done to President Zuma. What happens in our justice system in South Africa, depending on who you are, the outcome is already known. So I don't really have a lot of confidence. But I'm talking to my lawyers, and I'm sure in the next few days or so, a clear decision will be made as to which way to go. But at least the bottom line is that there's no prosecution that has been recommended for me and all of those nasty things. It's just that my reputation is being tainted as somebody that enables state capture without any evidence being put on the table. Very malicious report this, and very bad, especially done by the second most highest judge in the land, aspiring to be the #1 judge. This is very bad.
We'll leave it there. Mzwanele Manyi, the former GCIS head, giving us his side of the story when it comes to this report finding, saying that he is an enabler and millions of rands there that have been siphoned to TNA media under his tenure.